All right then, I owe a guy a build, so I'm going to get this Apollo 27 rocket wrapped up real quick. This is going to be about a 1-2 day build. I got delayed thanks to the weather. We had an ice storm come through here, and in 3 days we lost the power a total of 12 times. So every time I'd get started on something, the lights would go out, the computer die, you name it, boom, boom. So I'm going to wrap this up real quick. I've got the cockpit and the astronauts in the other room doing detail work. So I wanted to show this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and do some basic paint on this, primer all the parts, do some basic paint, do some detail paint, install the cockpit and the two astronauts, and get this ready to ship as soon as possible. This goes along with another rocket build that I'm doing, and I'll show that in just a minute. Okay, I've shot the main fuselage gray, and I've shot the engines all flat black. I'm going to go over them with dry brush with gray. On the inside it'll be light blue and white to show some kind of fire / exhaust. You know what I mean. So I'm going to let these all dry, shoot this with flat white first. Let that dry while I work on the other parts and do the detail parts. Then I'll come back and do some finish paint on the main fuselage, the other engines that are not here, and the rear engine exhaust. There you go. Okay, I've got the 4 main engines that surround the outer fuselage, which is about every 90 degrees. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and prime these real quick, and the nose cone and the detail part. I'm going to shoot them from 3 or 4 different angles, let everything dry, and then flip the engines and shoot them with primer, then go over all of those parts with gloss white after masking for the struts, the main support struts. Alright, I'm going to let all this dry, flip the parts while I work on the detail parts, then hit all the main engine components except for the main support structure for each one of the secondary engines or primary thrust engines, whatever you want to call them. I'm sure that the main fuselage has an engine as well. So you've got 5 engines altogether. You've got the main engine thrust and then all your secondary engines, what have you. Anyway, be right back. Well, as you can see, these have dried, so I flipped them. I'm getting ready to prime the other side. Hit it with about 3 or 4 light coats of primer at 5 different angles, 4 or 5 different angles. Let that dry, then I'm going to start painting everything except the exhausts white. Be right back. Alright, so here is the Rocket Girl project. Here you see the main fuselage for the Repcon rocket and the rocket fins. I've reworked the fins. I've got to do a little bit of touch up and detail paint. They're just about ready to go into the main supports for those pins in 3 different places, 120 degrees out. I've just about got the main body of the Rocket Girl ready to go into silicone. I've got a separator head to make a separate part for that. The rocket is, or the blaster is just about ready to go into silicone. I've got to yet trim up the hair. I want to do a close crop haircut on this, so I'm going to cut, trim, and rearrange some of these hair pieces. Get this ready for silicone. I've already got the electronics worked out for this. As soon as I get the electronics shoved in here, I'm going to go ahead and add real brass portholes here, here, and here, and on the other side. After I get all the main assembly done and the electronics inside, I'll add the piece that goes on the bottom here. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in silicone and make a mold of it. I've got to sand everything down one more time and coat it with another coat of clear. When all that is done and it's assembled, I will touch up the areas that need paint, match everything to match the original, and we'll get this ready to keep moving forward, done, and out the door. So that's where I'm at right now. I will be working on this the rest of the week. I've also got half of the launch assembly done. The launch pad, there's a special launcher that goes with this. As you see here on each one of these fins, below this point, the fins are going to be set below that point into each one of these areas until they mesh almost perfectly along this line. And each one of them will be adjusted to match the other so that all three are in exactly the same angles that go around the outside. Anyway, more work, a lot more work to do. That's why I'm working on the other rocket. And that's where we're at right now. We will see more of this and see it done, complete with the rocket exhaust and the interior lighting, in another video. Okay, I've masked off the dome, and what I'm going to do is crease all around that area that separates the outer ring or border from the main glass, so I can take an X-Acto, run right along that line, peel off the area that I want to paint while leaving the masking tape where I don't want paint, shoot that with primer and then with silver chrome, and let that fully cure before I remove the masking tape. More on this later.